Jamming, Jay Halsey, car number 2. His last lap at 13.3 for Halsey. Oh, he's...
What you get when you buy an RC10. We built, I think, 6 different prototypes before we got to the RC10.
American World Champion, we're going to see a Spencer Rivkin World Champion, we're going to see a Sergio Julio, and Rivkin takes it! Rivkin World Champion after 3 fantastic legs.
So it's something really that a family can do together.
I drive AE, you drive AE, and together we are AE. Over the last 40 years, the team associated RC10 has become a legend. And continuing with the Associated Electric 60-year celebration, we're excited to announce the release of the RC10 40-year anniversary kit.
Now, over the years, I've had quite a few RC10s, lucky enough, and I've built I built the CC recently, also restored an RC10, vintage one, which I have in the collection. Also, I did actually at one point own the RC10 original re-release. Did I build that? I honestly can't remember if I built that. I think I did build it, or maybe I'm getting confused and it's the World's car that I've actually built, and maybe that one was already built. Anyway, if I can find out, I'll put some pictures up of it. But I'm no stranger to building RC10s. I was really interested to see whether they'd changed a lot with this one versus the original re-release and the original car itself. And I'm happy to say that out of all of them, including the World's car, I found it went together the easiest. The CC, on the other hand, I did really struggle with. So maybe my perspective of it is a little bit twisted, as I found the RC10cc to be a bit of a pain. Putting in all the bolts, you've basically got to put a little bit of oil on every bolt and tapping a few of them as well. And it's a lot stiffer to put together, whereas this one, it goes together really well. So that's probably my biggest overall takeaway from the 40th. As for the rest of the car, well, I really enjoyed it. So unfortunately, the 40th has been very overshadowed by what's going on with Team Associated and Thunder Tiger, the owner. Now, I have nothing really solid to go on, but it does feel personally to me is that Thunder Tiger and Team Associated are trying to get more people to buy direct from them. Now, I'm not sure how this is going to pan out with distributors and the RC stores in your local area, but I can kind of understand, being that they means they can make more money per unit. Anyway, let's turn our attentions back to the car. Now, a few people were reporting that the actual chassis was thinner than the previous ones, but I measured it myself and it was exactly the same. Yes, you can bend this, especially if you start drilling holes in it like they did back in the day. The fit and finish of the suspension was really good. I was really happy with it, and it looks like the kit setup is pretty decent, so a good place to start before you start tuning it with different oils. Getting the car low enough is probably going to be a bit of a challenge, especially if you're running on carpet. But if you're interested in running the 40th anniversary, head over to RLRC. He's actually taking his 40th running and he's got lots of setups, and he explains the process that he's going through and the things he's changing and modifying on his. I'll put a link in the description, go check him out. One thing that's nice is, obviously this is very popular, there is tons of aftermarket options for this. So if you want to take it racing, you can. Granted, it would be nice to see Team Associated bringing out some parts themselves, but the aftermarket has got you covered. So there's lots of ways that you can get replacement parts, and the replacement part quality is really good, as well as if you want to fit things like LiPo batteries in it. Now, I did find the body to actually be really good quality. It's pretty thick, easy to cut out, wasn't that difficult to do, you just got to take your time. The most difficult aspect is around the rear suspension. Make sure you round off that top peak, don't just cut it to a point, otherwise it's going to crack across there, no problems at all. Painting it up, very obviously, it's Tamiya, it's the camel yellow, also back it in white, and then I backed mine in black. I actually decided to do the black roll bars on the outside of the car, as this is probably going to be more of a shelf queen. Some little tips that I would give you, and there isn't that many, it does go together really easily, is to do with this sticker around the back. To get this sticker to line up well is a challenge, because the back of the car isn't straight, it curves over, and then lines up. And when I restored my old vintage one, I really struggled with this bit. So I remembered and I thought next time I'll try something different. So what I did on this one, which definitely worked better, I put the sticker that's flat here first. And you want it to be just so it curves over the edges. They didn't give you loads of extra, so you've got to line it up. And one mistake is if you don't put it close enough to the rear sort of window part, you'll get gaps at each end. So be mindful of that. But line it up using the bottom of the rear window, or whatever that ledge is there. And then as long as both sides hang over, you know you can sort out the side stickers. Then when you've done that, you attach the side sticker to line it up perfectly. Then you bend it round, and it does give you a bit more wiggle room to line up this curve with the actual line that goes down the side. And that I found was a much better way to dial in the whole back to get it to look much more seamless and to line up correctly. If you try and line it up correctly here first and then put the sticker on, this sticker can go all over the place and make your life much harder. And obviously the top is where it shows up the most versus down here, but you want to get it bang on as you can, and that worked really well. So definitely do it that way if you're going to be building one of these. Now, another thing that I did differently versus my vintage one was I actually painted the bars black. But what I've done as well is I've gone in and I've finished with black edging tape around certain parts of it. And also what I did differently on this one, and as per the box, there's a black bar that goes right across the top, whereas in my vintage one I just did it as windows, which I think I prefer this way, and it is more fitting with box art as well. But by doing those two ways of actually painting on the outside the black bars and then using the edge tape, you end up with super sharp detail. Also what I do differently, which I've done on both of these cars, is if I take the spoiler off, what you can see on the back here is they're all windows. Now when you build the kit, the back windows are all painted in just black, but they have all the bars in them. So what I do is take a little bit of extra time and just do them all as windows. You have to make those window masks. It takes a little bit longer to do, but I think it looks more in keeping with the whole back of the car and the front. So that's one thing I would recommend doing if you want to put a little bit more effort into it. Another thing, and another mistake that I made, is when you put in the window masks come on a sheet, and it just looks like a piece of masking tape on the sheet. The window masks are cut out, but you can't see them. So be very careful when you remove the backing tape that you don't end up taking some of the very small window masks with you, which is exactly what I did. So I had to go back and remake them. Not the end of the world, and plus if you're going to do the back-in windows like I did, you're going to have to make those window masks anyway. Now unfortunately I'm not keeping this one. It's actually going off to a raffle winner. Now I think as I'm recording this video, it's got 2 or 3 days left. So if you would like to be in with a chance to win this, well, all you got to do is enter the raffle. We'll put a link below, and you could actually have this sitting in your collection for the price of a coffee. Now, the reason I'm not keeping that is I'm going to put as much money as I can into getting an RCKicks van so that I can go off around the UK to visit all the RC shops and all the RC tracks. But I've already done a video on that. I'll put a link up here if you haven't seen it already. So there you go. Super chuffed with it. It is beautiful, like to keep it, but obviously difficult to justify having a vintage one and having a new one. Would I recommend, if you had the choice, to pick up a vintage one or a 40th or one of the re-res? I don't think, honestly, for me personally, it matters. There's very little difference between them. It just depends. If you really like to get hold of a vintage one, well, you can. And some might argue it may be cheaper to pick up a vintage one. Depends what you can do with it. If you're going to go racing it, I would probably look around at some aftermarket offerings that are coming up if you're going to take it racing, because maybe some of the plastics are not as strong as they used to be. Whereas the 40th, yes, you can run it, but I'm guessing it's going to become a bit more of a collector's piece, being that the chassis has got the etching into it, and it's supposed to be a little bit special. So I'm guessing most of these will probably end up being shelf queens, and just a few will go running. Another beautiful car ticked off, and next, well, we've got quite a few. I have a Durga. Yes, I have a Tamiya Durga, and I'm doing a whole build series on it, and we're taking it racing, and it's going to be to prove to you you should never race a Tamiya car. So you have to keep an eye out for that, as it's going to be a fun one, as I have spent an absolute fortune on all the upgrades, as I'm going to give it the best chance I can, but I'm pretty sure the results are going to be in. Don't get a Tamiya if you want to go to the track racing, but you'll just have to wait and see if I'm proving myself right or wrong in that upcoming series. Also, I've got to build up the RC10 B7. That really needs to get done. Also, don't forget, I've got the RC Trick Bits YZ10R that I'm going to build and track on the show.
Jamming, Jay Halsey, car number 2. His last lap at 13.3 for Halsey. Oh, he's cooking.